Hello friends, today we're analyzing a massive geopolitical shift, why the entire world suddenly needs India, seeing it not just as a market, but as a strategic global partner. India is entering a new geopolitical story, positioned exactly where the world needs a stable and reliable economic alternative. Recent headlines confirm this trend. The US and India discuss trade and maritime security. The EU is accelerating free trade pacts, and US negotiators are visiting for major agreements. Why are America, Europe, and global corporations now viewing India as a strategic partner? The answer lies in a massive shift in the global supply chain map. For the last 2 decades, the world's factories were heavily concentrated in China, creating an enormous but singular dependence. From electronics and semiconductor assembly to pharmaceuticals and solar panels, everything became increasingly China-centric. However, the world began changing. The US-China trade war, the COVID pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine war, and now Middle East tensions have repeatedly destabilized global logistics and markets. The world is now realizing that if the entire global economy remains dependent on just one country, the whole system becomes dangerously vulnerable. This is where India's geography becomes its greatest strategic strength, positioning it perfectly to meet global needs. Today, America needs an alternative to China, Europe needs a secure manufacturing base, and the Global South needs a country that can communicate with both the West and the East. Imagine the Indian Ocean region, oil from the Middle East on one side, and the manufacturing economies of Southeast Asia on the other. India sits right in the middle. Nearly 80% of the world's oil trade passes through these routes. India is not just located near them, it is increasingly becoming their security manager. This realization is driving the China Plus One strategy, where manufacturing expands into another large, stable country to diversify risk. Global corporations are rapidly working on this, meaning manufacturing should not remain limited to China alone, and India stands at the top of that list. The world is entering a third phase. Countries are now prioritizing political trust, strategic reliability, and supply chain security over merely cheap labor. India is no longer seen as just a developing country, but as a crucial balancing power in a multipolar world. It's a country that can maintain dialogue with Russia, partnership with America, and energy ties with the Middle East simultaneously. Furthermore, India plays a central role in the critical Indo-Pacific strategy, essential for securing global maritime pathways. The question remains, can India truly capitalize on this geopolitical moment and convert headlines into long-term reality? Can India challenge China in areas like infrastructure, manufacturing scale, logistics efficiency, and policy execution? In the next slide, we will analyze why the global trade system is changing so rapidly and how the America-China rivalry is reshaping the entire structure of the global economy. Welcome. Today we're dissecting a major shift, the geopolitical shift, and India's rising importance in the global economy. If we look back at the 1990s, globalization was at its peak. America was the world's largest economy, and China was emerging as a manufacturing powerhouse. Western corporations sought cheap labor, while China desired investment and technology. This powerful partnership completely transformed the direction of the global economy over the next 25 years. Gradually, the world's factories, from iPhone assembly and electronics to solar panels and battery components, began shifting to China on a massive scale, fueled by low-cost manufacturing. A gigantic supply chain network developed, stretching from the Pacific to Europe. However, a critical problem began to emerge. The world had become overdependent on this single system. The COVID pandemic exposed this vulnerability for the very first time. In 2020, Chinese factory shutdowns led to electronic shortages, disrupted automobile production, and collapsing medical supply chains worldwide. The world quickly realized that while globalization may be efficient, it is fundamentally not secure when concentrated in one region. Next came the phase of US-China strategic rivalry. America realized that China was no longer just an economic competitor, but a major challenge in technology and global influence. Tariffs were imposed, semiconductor restrictions appeared, and technology export controls began. Global trade itself gradually became part of geopolitics. Countries are no longer solely asking who can produce the cheapest goods. They are now also asking who can actually be trusted. And this is where India's importance began to rise. India is now the most populous country in the world, with an enormous labor force and a massive domestic market. Crucially, India's political system is democratic, and it does not belong fully to any one geopolitical bloc. This balancing capability is unique and valuable. India follows a policy of strategic autonomy, maintaining partnerships with America while continuing cooperation with Russia. India is part of Quad and also part of BRICS. Examining the global manufacturing map, companies are now shifting production toward Vietnam, Mexico, Indonesia, and India. This process is called supply chain diversification. India appears different from the rest because it doesn't want to be only a manufacturing hub. It wants to build a complete strategic ecosystem. India is trying to build semiconductor plants, defense manufacturing, green energy, digital infrastructure, and AI ecosystems simultaneously. Apple suppliers have rapidly expanded manufacturing inside India. However, the ground reality is still complex. India needs to overcome significant internal challenges to realize its full potential. If you compare India's logistics costs, transportation and infrastructure efficiency are still weaker than China, and challenges with land acquisition remain. Manufacturing scale is still limited, and the skill gap in the workforce is also a major issue that needs urgent attention. The biggest question is, can India move fast enough in execution? The world is searching for alternatives, but opportunities are never permanent. If India remains slow in execution, these valuable investments can easily move toward other countries, underscoring the urgency of the moment. In our next slot, we will analyze how America, China, Europe, Russia, and the Middle East are viewing India in this larger global power game. How do the world's major powers actually see India? Is India merely a massive market or a future strategic power center? The intensifying US-China confrontation has profoundly multiplied India's global importance. It's time to understand Washington's thinking. For America today, the biggest challenge is China, seen across military rivalry, tech competition, and South China Sea tensions. This intense US-China confrontation means India's strategic value is at an all-time high. America's strategy is shifting from containing China to diversification. And the biggest pillar of this diversification strategy is becoming India. India is not America's ally. India is its strategic partner. This distinction means India is not part of any military bloc, setting it apart. Now let us look toward Europe. Their concerns are somewhat different, rooted in a heavily export-driven economy. After the Ukraine war, the energy crisis weakened European industries, and fears regarding Chinese market dependency grew. Europe is now searching for alternatives. India emerges as a gigantic consumer market, a large workforce, a stable democracy, and a vital manufacturing partner for Europe. India-Europe trade has steadily increased. Europe wants India not only as a buyer but also as a manufacturing partner, accelerating free trade agreement negotiations. Officially, China calls India a partner, but it also sees India as a strategic competitor. Beijing understands that if global manufacturing shifts to India, the economic balance in Asia could change, driving China to constantly maintain regional influence. Projects like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and Gwadar Port are long-term strategic positioning moves, which India is closely monitoring. Russia's position is perhaps the most interesting. Traditionally, Russia has been India's defense partner. After the Ukraine war, Russia became increasingly dependent on China, yet Moscow does not want to lose India. India is a major energy buyer, a strategic diplomatic partner, and an influential voice of the Global South, ensuring both Russia and America seek to strengthen ties. India is carefully trying to maintain balance between all sides. This is known as the multi-alignment strategy. Multi-alignment means securing national interests with every major power, without becoming fully dependent on any single camp. However, this balancing act comes with risks. If global rivalries intensify, pressure on India will increase, as major powers will want to know which side India truly stands on. In the next segment, we will understand how this global power struggle could directly affect India's economy, jobs, inflation, supply chains, and national security. So far, we've explored global power politics. But how does this geopolitical restructuring truly affect ordinary Indians? The answer is very deeply. Is this merely a game played by world leaders, or does it connect directly with your job, your business, your fuel bill, and India's long-term security? It's all connected. Let's look at the global supply chain map. The world economy relies heavily on maritime routes for oil, manufacturing, and consumption. This very system is becoming unstable. Red Sea attacks, Hormuz tensions, and South China Sea disputes are pressures on the critical arteries of global trade. India is heavily dependent on these routes. A very large share of India's crude oil imports arrives through maritime trade. If instability rises in the Indian Ocean region, the first impact falls directly on India's energy security. This instability risks rising fuel prices, increased inflation, and climbing logistics costs. Eventually, every sector will feel the impact. Transportation, food prices, and manufacturing costs could all be affected. India is not merely building an economy, it is building resilience. Recent policy trends show simultaneous work across multiple fronts. These strategies include expanding strategic oil reserves and significantly increasing domestic manufacturing capabilities. India is also modernizing ports, building dedicated freight corridors, developing a semiconductor ecosystem, and diversifying trusted trade partners. Let us now understand the critical semiconductor sector, which is central to future global power. In today's world, chips play the same role that oil played in the 20th century. Every advanced technology, from AI to defense, depends on semiconductors. The global chip supply chain is concentrated. A Taiwan crisis could violently shake the global economy. This is why India is investing billions in local manufacturing. If India successfully capitalizes on this geopolitical moment, massive industrial expansion is possible over the next 10 to 15 years. Sectors like electronics manufacturing, defense production, green energy, logistics, and AI infrastructure could create millions of jobs. But enormous challenges remain. China is far ahead in infrastructure and efficiency. In India, concerns like electricity reliability, skilled labor, and bureaucratic delays persist. Perhaps the biggest risk is not economic, but strategic. As India takes a more central role, geopolitical pressure may intensify. Escalation risks include cyber attacks, trade pressure, information warfare, and maritime competition. The coming decade will be a period of both economic growth and strategic survival and national positioning. Next, we explore if Asia could emerge as the 21st century's next great geopolitical center. In the next segment, we will analyze whether this transformation signals a larger global power shift, and if the next great geopolitical center of the 21st century could indeed emerge in Asia, particularly in India. India's position in the world is changing rapidly. Let's explore its role in the emerging new global order. If we examine the global timeline of the last 500 years, power centers have constantly shifted across the world. Europe once dominated, then America emerged as the global superpower, and at the beginning of the 21st century, China rose as an economic giant. Now the world may be entering a new transition phase, where power is defined not just by military strength, but by technology, supply chain control, energy access, data infrastructure, and geopolitical trust. Within this emerging world order, India's position is changing rapidly. It is now viewed as a potential system-balancing power. Global investment is no longer solely seeking cheap production. Companies are searching for stable political systems, reliable partners, and long-term strategic predictability. India appears as a strategic bridge, connecting energy flows from West Asia, shipping routes across the Indian Ocean, and trade corridors stretching toward Europe. This geography is India's greatest geopolitical asset. However, geography alone is never enough. Long-term rise requires three critical pillars: economic scale, technological capability, and institutional stability. India is one of the world's fastest-growing major economies. Digital payments, startup ecosystems, infrastructure spending, and manufacturing incentives have created strong growth momentum. The technological competition is intense. While America leads in AI and advanced chips and China dominates manufacturing depth, India is still in a catching-up phase. The opportunity is enormous, but the race is difficult. Global investors look beyond GDP growth, asking, are policies stable? Are contracts enforced? Is infrastructure reliable? Consistency in these areas is key for massive capital inflow. The world is becoming increasingly multipolar. In a fragmented world, the value of countries that can work with multiple sides simultaneously increases. BRICS expansion, discussions around alternatives to the dollar, and the rise of regional trade blocs all indicate that the international system is becoming more fragmented. India's greatest strategic advantage is its ability to work with multiple sides, maintaining technology partnerships with the West energy cooperation with Russia, and emerging as a voice of the global South. Balancing is never easy. India faces challenges that could lead to difficult choices in the future. If the Taiwan crisis intensifies, or if US-China confrontation evolves into an economic Cold War, India may eventually face extremely difficult choices. India's greatest test may not occur on a military battlefield, but across diplomatic balancing tables, requiring shrewd strategic maneuvering. In the final slot, we consider India's strategy moving forward, identifying the greatest risks and opportunities. India must adopt a forward-looking strategy, mitigating risks while capitalizing on its strategic position and economic momentum. Can the 21st century truly become the India century? The answer lies in its ability to execute on economic scale, technological capability, and institutional stability amidst a changing world. Now comes the biggest question. Can India truly become a central power in the emerging global order? Or is this merely temporary geopolitical excitement? The truth probably lies somewhere in between. History teaches us one extremely important lesson. No country becomes a superpower merely because of population size or market scale. Today, the world is watching India very carefully. But the world will not judge India by promises alone. It will judge India by results. Superpower status requires long-term vision, institutional discipline, technological capability, and strategic patience. If we understand the nature of global competition, then the coming decade will not only be a race for economic growth, it will also be a race for resilience. The race is about who can survive supply chain shocks, manage energy disruptions, and remain stable under geopolitical pressure. India will have to strengthen itself across all these fronts simultaneously, including reducing technological dependence. If you look at the map, India's location is extraordinary. Access to the Indian Ocean, proximity to the Middle East, connectivity with Southeast Asia, and trade routes toward Africa all provide India with a natural geopolitical advantage. But an advantage becomes meaningful only when it is matched with execution. That is why the next 10 to 15 years could become decisive for India. Success in key sectors will determine India's future global position. Success in critical sectors like semiconductor ecosystems, advanced manufacturing, and ports modernization will shape India's global role. Focus areas include defense production, AI infrastructure, and green energy transition. These need maximum attention and execution. Now imagine this scenario and the contrasting risks. If India becomes a large-scale manufacturing hub and its ports central nodes of Indo-Pacific trade, the global economic map could fundamentally change. But if reforms slow down, infrastructure bottlenecks continue, or education fails to accelerate, demographic advantage itself could transform into demographic pressure. Opportunity and risk move side by side. India must strengthen not only its external geopolitics, but also its internal capacity, because global influence always emerges from domestic strength. A strong economy, efficient governance, technological innovation, and social stability form the true strategic foundation of any nation. India's story is no longer only India's story. It is becoming the story of a larger global transition, where power structures are changing and supply chains are being redesigned. A world where countries are no longer searching for neutrality, but for strategic positioning. India now stands at the center of this transformation, but the final outcome is still uncertain. Opportunities are never guaranteed. They must be converted into reality through strategy, speed, and execution. Can India truly emerge as a global balancing power? Share your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Keep studying. For Factivist Room, I am Ravi Sir. Jai Hind.